For more on the story, we are now joined in studio by Dr. Jimmiel Mandima, Director, Program Design and Partner Relations at African Wildlife Foundation. Doc, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Your World. Now, today marks day 3 of the conference. You were mentioning off air that you've been here before the conference started. What has the focus been so far?
Thank you for having me here, and as you know, CITES is being held for the second time in Africa when it was first held here in 2000, and the debate is about how the conference of parties can come to an agreement on how to manage the endangered species, in particular our rhinos, our elephants, our lions, our pangolins, and many other species. And on day 3, is expected, there are obviously contentious issues when it comes to agreeing on stopping the trade on ivory and rhino. And in particular, there is a divide amongst the different elephant range countries where the southern African countries do think that they probably have populations that could be viable enough and accommodate sales of the ivory collected from natural deaths. And then other range countries in East Africa, in West Africa, and Central Africa think that we actually do not have enough elephants to afford to sell. As an organization, we believe that wildlife and wildlands should contribute to the modernization and prosperity of Africa. And we know that in the last 7 years, we have lost as a world 144,000 elephants, and that's a lot, at a rate of 8% per year. So in principle, we realize that we need to look at the big picture and really say all those that have done a great job to conserve the wildlife, like Southern African countries, should take the sacrifice needed for the entire world and for the whole of Africa until we put our house in order to be able to distinguish between legal and illegal ivory on the market. And that we don't have right now.
Now, we were just chatting off air that, as you say, Southern African countries, for instance, Swaziland, Namibia and Zimbabwe, looking to keep their stockpiles. Does this not create a sort of an environment where it opens up the issue, as you say, illegal trade and legal trade? Where do we distinguish and how do we get that right?
You have got a great point, and we really would want to commend Swaziland, Namibia, and Zimbabwe for doing a great job in conservation. And naturally, we believe these assets should be able to contribute to the fiscus and economy of the countries. But as members of the conference who have signed to the CITES Convention, we really believe that they would also want to contribute to the common good, for the good of the entirety of the populations of rhinos and elephants. So in essence, we are willing and already working with these respective countries to basically engage and find a solution through which we can generate resources to support their conservation efforts without necessarily needing to sell the ivory and the rhino horn, because we believe there are no systems in place to put the checks and balances and be accountable. And I think the worst part of it is whenever this ivory and rhino horn is sold, it benefits syndicates, not the local communities.
Now, what would you say are some of the other main issues that need immediate attention at this year's gathering of CITES?
A couple of things. I think elephant and rhino remain top priority. Large carnivores, in particular lions, we are aware that the lion populations has really declined very fast over the last few years. We have 5 countries where extinctions have been recorded, and they're now present in 25 countries. And even the populations are very small and largely unknown. The threats continue to grow because of human-wildlife conflict, as elephants are killing, as the lions are killing the livestock. So that's a big issue under discussion. Pangolins are also under discussion in a big way because they are being poached for the scales for a market that exists. We also know that the sharks and other marine resources are also being poached. And these issues are all being discussed with the view of revisiting their listing on the appendices, Appendix 1 to Appendix 3, which governs the extent to which they can be traded, they could be hunted or controlled.
Now, as the African Wildlife Foundation, what are you putting on the table to resolve some of the difficult issues that you just mentioned?
So a couple of things we are doing really. We have a dedicated species protection program where we are rolling out interventions to stop the killing in the field, to stop the trafficking using sniffer dogs at airports and seaports, and to stop the demand through raising awareness, where we use public service announcements, where we do banners and engage voices from Africa, voices from celebrities, to talk about how it is actually a loss for Africa, a loss for the world if these illicit products are being sold on the market illegally. And we continue to engage the governments. We engage them at the policy level and essentially simply say, this is a resource you can't afford to lose through poaching or through illegal trade, but rather we want wildlife to contribute to economic growth in Africa. And we are seeing a turn among the policymakers, willingness to engage, to talk to us. And at the same time, we are also engaging local communities and kind of brokering businesses between local communities, the private sector and governments in ecotourism, so they can benefit from wildlife when it is alive than dead.
Now, is this not another talk shop? When can we, what are we expecting in terms of the finality of, there's another 7 days to go. The conference is going to take about 10 days. It's already been 3 days into the conference. Not another talk shop, results. What are we going to do to ensure that there's a breakthrough and results we get results?
I think it's important to note that CITES as a convention is a legal platform signed off on by the parties, and they are governed in kind of commitments by the different parties. That does not stop us from doing what we have been doing over the last couple of years to stop this illicit trade. So there are so many initiatives right now and commitments from the African Union, from the different NGOs, from the different governments, and action plans in place that we are already rolling out and implementing. So the decisions from the convention, if anything, is just to reinforce the urgency of this issue, but not that anything will stop, or do we expect this to be the panacea of what actually resolve this issue, but rather it just adds to the ammunition of what we're already doing and gives some of the teeth of consensus arrived at by the 183 parties, hopefully, over issues that are critical for the whole world.
Dr. Mandima, we have to leave it there for now, unfortunately. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Dr. Jimmiel Mandima, Director, Program Design and Partner Relations, African Wildlife Foundation, bringing us up to speed with what is happening at CITES conference.